Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of Microdose Your Wellness. In this episode, I speak with Rhee, who's a former management consultant who lived the typical high stress lifestyle turned content creator and wellness coach. Rachel is a cancer survivor whose mission is to help educate and support women on the importance of living well, mind, body, and soul. She's a women's health advocate and the creator of The Dimple Life, an online resource covering a variety of topics around wellness, personal growth, fitness, food, and beauty. The Dimple Life is a guide to healthier living combined with elements from her own personal journey. She also recently launched You Are Here, a membership community that provides connection with like-minded individuals, mindfulness, and a library of digital wellness content. And with that, Rhee. Well, annyeonghaseyo, Rachel. I get to use my Korean.
Love it.
It's like the four words that I know. But anyway, I am so excited to talk to you. I know we catch up a lot on Instagram and we'll see each other at events, but it's so nice to just catch up one-on-one. And I feel like I've been doing that a lot with, just being at home and COVID. I feel like I've definitely connected with a lot more people than I did in, pre-COVID times, BC, if you will. So it's so fun to see you. And I love that chair in the background.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I live in downtown. I try to make it as homey as possible.
No, you did a great job. I mean, I've seen, pictures. Your kitchen is like so amazing. And, I love that you get to cook there. So yeah, I mean, like, how are you handling COVID? You definitely especially in downtown LA, it's so populated. And I know like going outside and, you do have there, whatever they're calling comorbidities, like there is, like we all have something, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like generally right now I've gotten into such a good rhythm of like what my new routine is. So I do definitely limit the exposure that I have outside. I'll do obviously the grocery shopping, or I've picked up food a couple of times, and just some random errands that I need to do. And then I'll also go out for kind of a walk in my neighborhood. Luckily, the area that I live in, I don't see a ton of people on the street, so it does feel very safe for where I am. But, I do the precautions. I wear a mask at all times, even within my building when I'm going downstairs to check the mail. Like I always just wear my mask. I always have gloves on. And even with the gloves, when I take them off inside, I always still wash my hands. So, you kind of just, you do what you can in all the ways that you can, and that's the best that you can really hope for. But yeah, it's definitely been, in the beginning, it was definitely challenging because I do have a pre-existing condition, so I guess to kind of jump right into
Yeah.
some of the things that I've dealt with. So back in 2018, I was diagnosed with kidney cancer, but really even before getting into all of that, I actually have an autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis, and I've had it for years and years. I have a lot of health things that I've experienced, and kidney cancer was just kind of the most recent one as of a couple years ago, or maybe like a year and a half ago. So it's definitely in my recent memory, and it's something that I'm very, very conscious of at all times, especially given this time. So that's why I've just tried to be as vigilant as possible.
But you're in remission. Like it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
which is, yeah.
I'm so thankful and very grateful that I actually caught it at stage 2. So it hadn't metastasized yet to spread in other areas, but I caught it at a point where it was confined to my kidney. And so I removed the tumor as well as my right kidney in completion. And that was able to sort of be my treatment. And surprisingly, actually, with kidney cancer, chemotherapy and radiation are actually one of the last things that you do as far as treatment goes. Yeah, I can't speak to all the different treatments there are. I don't have that experience, but yeah, that's definitely something that I've read and heard. So yes, I was able to get surgery done. They had removed an 8 centimeter mass, so it was
Wow.
it was quite large. And when obviously doctors don't know when it started growing and how, and all these things, it's still such a question mark. But given kind of the size of it, their experience with other patients and studying other cases, my doctor was confident enough to tell me that he believes that it was probably growing for about 3 years, and I didn't know. So that was actually something that was super eye-opening to me. because 3 years ago, from that point when I was diagnosed, 3 years prior was when I actually lost my period. So I thought that was such an interesting thing. And I know you're so well versed in sort of like Eastern medicine, and like, there's definitely meridian lines that kind of connect all of that together, which you can definitely speak to.
Well, and it's interesting for a number of reasons, right? Like that's like, the period, as there's doctors that talk about, it's a vital sign, right? And so like immediately like, holy shit, there's something wrong. But the kidneys affect the body fluids. If you're losing there's a correlation there, right? Like that's super fascinating. So you were like, oh shit, I lost my period. And like, what were you doing? Did you do anything at that point? Was it, what was that oh shit moment?
Yeah, so I've always had sort of an irregular period. So missing it 1 month, 2 months, like it seemed like that was kind of on par with what I was used to. So that didn't really alarm me. But once it got to like 6 months and a year, that's when I was like, okay, maybe something is weird here. And I remember going to my gynecologist and I told her about it. And I brought this up a couple different times at different appointments. And the response was always, sometimes it's just irregular. And there was no further testing of any like hormones or anything going on at all. She just said like, sometimes it is what it is. And at that time I had also been working out a lot. I used to be a spin instructor. So she said, oh, do you exercise a lot? Maybe that's what's affecting it. And that was kind of just, that was the end of the conversation. And at that point, I feel like I hadn't necessarily had a strong viewpoint or I wasn't necessarily my strongest advocate at that time. And so whatever she said, I was like, well, she's the doctor. Okay, I guess she knows best. And obviously now in hindsight, I've definitely learned my lessons and realized the importance of using your voice and speaking up for yourself and questioning a doctor. Just because someone has a white coat doesn't mean that they can't field questions from you. It's your body. So that's definitely one learning. But yeah, during that time, I asked my doctor, she said it was fine. And that was kind of the end of it. And then of course I got the diagnosis, and that's when I started to kind of like look into things a little bit more, like, maybe those things were kind of related and I never knew.
Yeah. What was so, you kind of like, and I get it. We've all been there. It is like, it's like this doctor figure is sort of like, okay, they know everything. That white coat, symbolizes this sort of authority.
Right.
We've all been there. And I love that you have, become an advocate for yourself and also educating other people to become one. What were the symptoms of the diagnosis? Were you just in for like a regular checkup and it was like, oh, PS, you have this 8 centimeter growth on your kidney? Or
Well, it was really wild. I had felt a little tired a couple days prior me realizing everything. I just felt a little under the weather, but it was summertime. I had been out at the beach. I was under the sun, and I kind of justified it in my mind of, well, it must have been the heat, that happens. But it did feel a little off. I would take 3-hour naps in the day, and that still didn't make me feel well and rested. And then I remember it was a Monday morning. I woke up just all of a sudden at around 6 a.m. and I was just in so much pain. My stomach was hurting on my right side. I had lower back pain on my right side, and I just felt really nauseous. And I remember having to go to the restroom early that morning. And when I looked down at the toilet, too much information, but we're talking about kidney cancer here.
yeah, I talk
You know,
about poop and stuff all the time. That's
you
like,
know,
and it's
yeah,
a vital sign too. Your period, yeah,
it is. Yeah.
we're human.
But the toilet was all red. It was all blood. And given that I hadn't had my period though for so long, I thought, well, maybe this is just my period and it's coming on real heavy right now.
Mass murder scene, but it's cool.
Right. Yeah. But, then I started sweating all of a sudden. It was like I took 3 soul cycle classes back to back. I was just dripping sweat and I was just standing there in the bathroom.
Body fluids, kidneys and body fluids. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And then I just like started kind of dry heaving and, just it wasn't good. And at first, luckily I was at my parents' house, so I wasn't by myself. And I'd called my mom to come and see me. And she said, maybe just like put a heating pad on your stomach and it'll go away. And I was just like, it is not a stomach ache. This is something
Yeah.
else. So she drove me to urgent care. And when I was there, they actually said, you probably have kidney stones. And if you have kidney stones, you'll probably also want to get a CT scan and just check everything out. So we're going to send you to the ER. So I went to the ER and I did a CT scan, and it had been hours. And I figured, well, it's the ER, maybe things just kind of take longer. But a doctor finally came to see me after my scan and said, myself and my colleague have reviewed your scan results. We have to ask you, do you have any history of any kind of cancer in your
I
family?
just
And
got chills.
I was just like, no, what are you talking about? I just like couldn't process it. And they said, well, we do see a mass. We're going to want to do another scan on you just to be sure. We'll have to admit you right now. And I said, well, can I just schedule a scan for tomorrow? Like, I want to just rest at home. I didn't really get it. And they said, no, you should stay here. So I ended up staying at the hospital for a couple of days. They did multiple scans with contrast, which basically means they kind of light you up inside, so they're able to like see everything going on. And that's when they confirmed it, and they said, we don't know for sure unless we take it out, but we're like 99.9% there, and we know that you have kidney cancer. So yeah, that was definitely, my body had just had enough. It had been under 3 years of trauma, undiagnosed, unseen, undiscovered. And at that morning, I kind of just had all the symptoms all at once, which is such a blessing. It was so painful at the time, but had I just had that stomach ache or had I just had lower back pain, I don't know that that would have catapulted me to see the doctor.
Yeah. I mean, who hasn't had, lower back pain or whatever? And it's like, I mean, I always like freak out. I'm like, oh my God, my kidney something. And it's like way too low on my back. Like I know where my kidneys are, but I
Yeah.
do. But I mean, it is a blessing. And I love that you actually think about it as a blessing. And it's not like, I mean, it is a holy shit moment, but it's like, thank God it did happen. And thank God you were at your parents' house. I mean,
Yes.
you weren't alone. You were able to, call, like, that's what they're there for. So you go through this whole thing, and again, it's so great that they were able to, like take it out. That was sort of, it, and like, voila. Obviously I'm paraphrasing, and I know that there was a long road to recovery, but like now, where we are in this global health pandemic, which, they're talking about, sort of any sort of compromised immunity. I mean, again, I think that a lot of people have it. There's high blood pressure, stress, tension, blah, 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 all of those things too. But like, how are you, like, obviously you're wearing a mask. I think we're all going to get farmer face tan or face mask tans, but
Yep.
like, what, did you change your diet at all? Did you sort of like amp up on the, dark leafy greens or, anything like that? Or is it sort of like, I was already taking care of myself really well prior to, so the only things that I've added to the regimen are literally like the gloves and the masks and the hand washing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, that's another one of those like, oh, I'm so grateful moments because I haven't really had to transition too much as far as my diet goes or as far as any of my self-care practices go. Because after I was diagnosed, I really just like dived into like, okay, what should I be eating? What should I be cutting out? So I cut out a lot of processed foods, obviously. That's not great. Cut out a lot of fried things. So it's like all these things that we all kind of know are not
Mm-hmm.
generally good for anyone. And obviously also amping up the vegetables and making sure I'm always having some kind of green on my plate as often as I can. So it's those basic things that I was starting to really implement after I was diagnosed, that have really helped me ease that transition into how I live now and how I take care of myself now. I will say, just to kind of speak on like the mental health aspect of things,
Yeah.
as I was going through recovery and processing that trauma, and it's still something that, obviously I cope with in different ways, but it's much less heightened version now. But, I started really diving deep into self-care practices of I need to process this shit out somehow,
Mm-hmm.
and journaling was one way that was hugely important to me. Like I am someone that has lots of feelings. I'm a Cancer by sign. So, I just have a lot of emotions as well. And so I needed some kind of outlet. And for me, writing was one form of that. And that's a practice that I had beforehand that I also very much use every day now as a part of my morning routine. It just kind of helps with so much noise that's going on in the world. And I'm sure many people are watching the news. I personally haven't turned on the news in probably a month and a half because it just was doing so many bad things to my mental health in the beginning. But yeah, even just like being able to tune out the world in some way, in your own way. And for me, that was journaling, that was identifying certain calming apps, like Calm app for like meditation. Headspace is a good one, but I prefer Calm app. And also doing things that kind of just feel good for me, that are just for me. So, a lot of times I was doing, prior to getting sick, I was in a lot of fitness studios and a lot of classes and that like high energy group environment. And there's definitely a time for that. Like I do thrive on that sort of like community aspect. But after getting diagnosed, I leaned into needing to slow down. And so I incorporated some more yoga, some like light walks. And so that type of practice has very much served me well within this pandemic era too.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, we're nourishing our yin essence. The, high intensity cardio classes are yang, and the kidney is a yin meridian. So again, it's like it all makes sense to me, but hindsight is 2020. But I want to touch on the journaling because a lot of my guests have talked a lot recently about journaling. Are you a morning journaler or a night journaler, or are you just kind of like pick it up when you're like, I just need to get these feelings out of my body?
I'm a morning journaler. It helps me when I have a routine. I'm big on routines. So I make my cup of matcha and I do a little writing.
Mhm.
And I'm not real like rigid in terms of what I write about or how long I write for, or like how many pages or whatever. It's sort of almost like a brain dump
Mhm.
of just excess things that I've been thinking about maybe the night before, or the things that I'm kind of anxious about for the future. And it's just sort of like a way for me to kind of make sense of the millions of thoughts that are in my head. And it's a judgment free zone. So it's not something that I really look back on and like correct my sentences and, things like that. It's really just free flow of thoughts for me. And that really does help me. But yeah, I like doing that in the morning. And then what I do I kind of do like a mini journal moment at night where I've been highlighting one point in each day that I want to hold on to and that I appreciate. So it's kind of like my highlight of the day where, it could be something where it's, I had a conversation with a friend and that could be my highlight. Or maybe it is something cool happened in my business, or, whatever that is. And some days are really easy and there's like a standout thing that has happened. But a lot of days, especially now, given that there's not a lot of like outside stimulation, um, I'm really needing to take that mindful moment to myself and think back like, okay, what did I do today? What did happen? Did I have like an interesting thought? So it's just like a small mindful moment that I create for myself at the end of the day to kind of just have a little bit of self-reflection on what had happened during the day.
I love that. And I mean, it's practicing gratitude, which, I mean, Brene Brown has talked about gratitude and you experience pure joy. If you can have those moments of gratitude, I think that and even if it is those small moments, and I mean, I can totally relate to that where, it's like, okay, what happened today that I'm grateful for? That was a standout moment, or that, sort of was something of significance. And I've definitely started to look at the smaller moments, and it actually makes me appreciate things a little bit more than I did prior to. There was a lot of things that I wouldn't have said, oh, I take that for granted, but I absolutely took it for granted. I took for granted that I could walk into a yoga studio at any time. I can go and like now we can. And I miss that community aspect. So I love that you do that. I think that's a really good practice for people to adopt. And it's not hard, and I think it's very thoughtful, and it celebrates life. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like it celebrates life in all its moments. And I think a lot of times it's so funny. Just this morning, I read a passage around something like this, but I think so oftentimes we look for those big moments and those big highlights, those big transformations. But a lot of times life is in those small moments. And it's about honoring those small moments of like, I got to go out for a walk today. That felt really nice. The sun was on my face. It's those little things that we can start to appreciate. But you're absolutely right. It's just a gratitude moment.
Yeah, and I love what you said, transition. And that's something that I focus on with my clients is to really look at transition, not just those destinations of, okay, you got to this point, that's great, but like, how did you get there? How did you respond to it? And I think that, that's something too that people can be looking at right now is how are you responding to this? And if it's negatively, if you're, if, it's like I set, we'll call them intentions every day. I don't necessarily think about it at this point, I've been doing it for so long that I just want to live my life from a place of calm and ease.
Yeah.
So those, and there's, sometimes it shifts and changes, but if you're not responding to life from like how do you want to show up in the world? And I think that, this gratitude practice really helps that. I want to show up in the world as grateful, as, calm and easy, and like more ease, not easy. That's another
Yeah.
topic. But,
Yeah.
but, I also want to touch on something that your business, which
Yes.
came out of, it was birthed by, this kidney cancer. You were in a corporate job prior to, which, you realize didn't necessarily serve you anymore. I can relate to that too. It was just like, this is not, it's great. And I learned a lot, and I met a wonderful people, and I developed skills that I couldn't have, necessarily paid for. I feel like I was, front row seat to a Harvard Business School case study at literally every job that I did, but I was not aligned to who I, like what I needed to be doing in life. And, this again, like, you know, who knew kidney cancer was going to be like this big,
Exactly.
amazing moment for you? Like, not to, it's not like, oh my God, I have kidney cancer, but like your life completely changed, and you're flourishing, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Like a lot of times people will ask me like, oh, so like tell me the pitfalls of like being in consulting or like in corporate world or whatever. It's not that there were really pitfalls. It just wasn't aligned with what I saw for myself in my future. And I think that's something that is really important. This concept of like lifestyle planning and life planning, just as you would like budgeting or financial planning or, all of these different things. It's like, how do you actually want your life to look like? And I think that's a big question that I had been asking myself along the way without really realizing that that was the question that I was trying to find the answer to.
Same.
And yeah, and like over time you kind of realize like what's really important to me. Like freedom and flexibility in my day is super important to me. Knowing that I have autonomy over my day and my schedule, that's super important to me. And so like really outlining like mentally the things that have stood out for you in your life is something that's super important. So if you're watching this and that's something that you haven't done, I think that that's just so valuable. And it's not to say like, oh, that means you're going to go quit your job. And, because sometimes like your joy and your purpose can be fulfilled in that corporate job, but it's just a matter of like knowing what your needs are. And for me, I knew that working in that type of consulting environment didn't align to my higher purpose of wanting to really help people
Hmm.
in a meaningful and impactful way. Like I definitely gave, my clients value in terms of like, different revenue streams and pitch decks and, all of these different things that I was working on. But that wasn't something that I felt super passionate about. And so I took a step back. I had been interested in health and wellness. And at the time I was really interested in like fitness and things like that. So then I experimented a little bit as a spin instructor and, I was just kind of trying to find my way, but I knew that inside I was getting lit up by exploring this world. And so that's when I decided to just go full time on content creation and showing up online and putting out content that I felt like could help inspire or motivate people to live better, and not just a physical sense of like got to get those abs, but
That'd
in
be
the sense
nice,
of
but
like
yeah.
yeah, in the sense of like, um, let's take care of your whole self, and you're more than your abs, your body, like all these things that maybe you might see a lot on social media. Let's talk about your mental and emotional health, and let's talk about like purpose and finding value in your life ultimately. And so, yeah, that's why I decided to get online. And, post COVID, a big part of what I was doing pre-COVID was building these like in-person events and community and connection in person. And, digital is definitely different. It's not, nothing will ever replace in-person connection, but I wanted to try to find a way to pivot to be able to serve my community and help people find a community online, in whatever way we can. If you're given 5 ingredients, but you need 6, like you try to do what you can with those 5 ingredients. So
Hmm.
I kind of tried to take that approach. And so I developed You Are Here, which is an online community to be able to meet people where they're at in their well-being journey. I mean, I've talked a little bit in terms of how I was so heavily into fitness. Now I'm into like holistic wellness and healing and trauma recovery and all of these different areas of wellness. Um, but I recognize that everyone is at a different path in their well-being. And so I wanted to create a community that really had digital resources to be able to meet you wherever you are. So if you're interested in financial wellness, we have content on financial wellness. If you are interested in acupuncture and Eastern medicine, like we have content on that. So it's really to just be a supportive system for anyone interested in their well-being.
I love that. And I mean, yeah, everybody's at different stages and we have to meet people where they are. I mean, it's like you and I have been doing this for quite some time and, it's like, oh, right, we have to, you know, like where bring everybody else, with
Exactly.
us. Like, come on, it's actually really cool.
No, yeah, exactly. And that's a good point because, like, I mentioned morning routine earlier, but for me, it's like so second nature to have a morning routine or like the importance of like developing that time for yourself. But I recognize, and I've recognized through the years that like that's not second nature to a lot of people.
It's
So
not.
continuing to kind of talk about things that maybe you think are basic for your life, like that's, you know, it's just coming to that understanding that not everyone is at that same place. So just helping people along the way, wherever they are.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's amazing. And you do such a great job. And I have been to some of your events that were live in LA when we were actually able to be with other people.
Yeah,
And they were great. And I definitely, I met other people. I was exposed to, new things and new ways of thinking. And it was great. And you do such a good job at bringing people together and making the content relevant and interesting. And so
thank you.
I think it's great. So, yay, kidney cancer, I guess. But,
Yeah, yeah.
well, and, I mean, yeah, I mean, we were able to meet because we are both on this wellness journey, and I'm so sad that the conference isn't happening this year. It was like when they canceled, it was like, shit, okay, I think this is
Yeah.
like something.
It's a real thing that's
It's a
happening.
real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, yeah, this whole thing has been crazy. It's like, it's hard to believe it's been 9 weeks and, like so much has changed. I, went on an overnight journey to Argentina because my mom and I thought we were going to, go to Antarctica. And it was like, just kidding. You guys have to get on a plane and go home.
Oh,
But anyway, it's all good. It's how do you respond to it? It's like, all right, we can, sit and play victim, but whatever. It's a funny story.
exactly. Exactly. And I mean, this sounds so cliche now, but we are all in this together. That's not just a commercial that you see on TV, but
It's no, it's true. I mean, we are, and how seriously people are taking it, I think is, we were talking about this before, but just it is very individual. Which just because we're sick and tired of being at home doesn't mean COVID's over. It's like no, it's still happening, and I'll still wear the gloves and I'll get the face mask, farmer tan, and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean but we are in this together, whether or not you want to wear a face mask or gloves and wash your hands and do all
yeah,
that stuff. It is out there. It's not just, it's not canceled because we're sick and tired of being at home.
exactly. Yeah. And I just think that this should be a really good mindful experience for people to recognize that this is a collective experience that we're all going through. And like to just continue to ask that question of like, how can I show up for myself today and be the best version of myself? But also, how can I show up for my neighbor and show my neighbor compassion and kindness and, you know, putting on a mask and, minimizing your contact outside. Like those are very actionable things like right now that you can do for your neighbor. And you might not necessarily think of it in that way, but it definitely all makes an impact. And it's all sort of like this ripple effect. If we're all kind of on the same page, like, better
Yeah.
for everyone.
Well, it is stepping outside yourself a little bit, right? Like, okay, like how are you showing up for yourself? How are you showing up for your community? How are you showing up in the world?
Yeah.
And I think that to your point, it all has a ripple effect. If you don't, I'm sorry that you don't want to wear a mask. I get it. They're not comfortable. And like, I learned the hard way, brush your teeth before you put on your mask and go to the store. Cause like you will be living with your chips and salsa breath as a friend. But I kept my mask on because I was like, you know what? This is a minor inconvenience right now. As soon as I
I,
get in the car, I'll take this off. And I learned, right? Like I learned, brush your teeth. It's,
exactly. There is a learning moment in everything.
absolutely. And it was great. Well, this has been I mean, I could talk to you forever. This has been amazing. Are there so I love the morning ritual. I think it is important, whatever it is that you do in your morning time, whether it's meditation, journaling, just sitting in silence, don't
Yes.
turn on your TV, don't, pick up your phone right away, whatever it is that, means something to you. Um, you know, how, thinking about, how you show up for your community. I love the moments of gratitude. Are there any other tips and tricks that, you'd like impart on the viewers?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all really actionable things, but also to take breaks in your day.
Oh
I
yeah.
think now that there's such a blur of boundaries, maybe many of us like live in an apartment, or I live in like a loft, so everything is open. There's no walls anywhere. And so that really kind of blurs my work and my home life. But for me mentally, I know, okay, well, my desk is by the window. So when it gets dark, I shut off the computer, and that means no more work. And the kitchen is right there. Once it's 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, like that means it's lunchtime, and I'm not at my desk, and I'm either watching TV, or I'm like calling a friend, or doing something that's not work related. So I think just it's really important to develop boundaries when you're at home in whatever way that can be. So take a break at lunchtime, go out for an afternoon walk if you can. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, like maybe do an at-home workout, or do something that kind of stimulates you in a different way other than work, or whatever it is that you're doing for
Yeah.
the bulk of the day.
I think it's so important to take breaks, get up. I mean, like I even know just like my eyes are so strained, even though like I was working on, I was at home before and spending a lot of time online. I mean, I noticed my eyes were even more strained than they
Ah,
normally were. So if for nothing else, do it for your eyes, but do it, I
yes.
mean, do it for your body. I mean, that I love that. Thank you so much. And if people want to find you or join, your community, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I am at Just Dimple It, and my member community is You Are Here Community on Instagram.
Awesome. And I will include all of that in the comments, and I'll put a link in my link tree so that people can find you. But Rachel, this was amazing. I guess I can say kamsamnida. I can use my like 4 words of Korean that I get to.
I love that you know Korean.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, when I was there twice, it was a lot of pantomiming and interpretive dance when I would go into any establishment, because, and thank God there are pictures on the menu, because I was like,
Oh yeah,
I
just
would have been, pardon my language, I would have been fucked, because I was alone. I was there visiting a friend who was teaching English, and she was at work. And so I would go out, and, traipse Seoul by myself, which was amazing. But I
yeah.
also was like, oh my God, I'm so tired from like trying to like figure things out. And I mean, there was like a little dumpling shop that, I became a regular in the 2 weeks that I was there. And the women, sort of knew what I wanted. And it was great. But by the end of the 2 weeks that I was there, I ended up at an expat bar. It was the Canadian bar, and they had hockey on and they had nachos. And I was like, thank God, I just need to speak English. And I just like, I don't love hockey particularly, but
Yeah,
really, I was a huge fan that day. I was like, oh my God, this is great. But it was
totally.
it was amazing to be there. And thank you again. This was an amazing conversation, and I just appreciate you. Thank you so much. And you
Thank
guys,
you.
check her out. She's awesome, and we'll see you next time. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.